Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Aisha Blake. I am Director of Developer Relations for Pluralsight, and I am really excited. This is a new series that we're starting largely because we were inspired by Michael here, who's going to be leading us through some wellness tech tips. And this is our first session. We're going to be talking about staying active at your desk job, which it's deeply relevant to my life personally. So I'm really looking forward to talking through some of this with you. Michael, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yeah, I'm. It's great to be here with you, Aisha. Yeah, I'm Michael Cassidy. I DevOps training architect here at Pluralsight, and I'm also the founder of Active in Tech. And I'm really passionate about health and fitness, and I've found that a lot of people working in tech, we tend to sit at our desks a little too much, and sometimes not get enough activity in our day, and getting more activity can lead to a lot of improvements in your health and happiness and even productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. How how did you get started in kind of talking about fitness?
So a little over a year ago, I was trying to get into tech, and so I got a LinkedIn, and I started noticing a common issue with a lot of people in tech, especially those who were working remotely, and that was that people had transitioned to remote work. Some of them gained a little bit of weight, because of a more sedentary lifestyle. They were moving around in their offices a little bit more, and when they switched to working from home, they got a little bit lazier. Some people I noticed were having issues with back pain from sitting too much, and different things like that. And so that's when I thought to myself, okay, I've been doing health and fitness forever. Maybe I could offer some insights, some knowledge, some value, to some of these tech people. Aisha, I don't know if it's my
No,
audio.
it's definitely not
Okay,
you.
there you go.
um, yeah, I when we were really obligated to work from home, not being able to go to the gym was huge for me. I love powerlifting, and I love the community of a gym, a good gym.
Yeah.
And I had, I had a gym in my basement that I'd never used because it was so much more fun to go and work out with other people. And so now I was kind of faced with this unanticipated struggle. Like I said, I love lifting. I love powerlifting specifically. And I it was just suddenly in the midst of, obviously a ton of other trauma going on.
Mhm.
It was suddenly this thing that I loved so much that was no longer fun. And it became more of a chore. And so I had to find ways to keep myself moving as much as I felt like I could at my desk. I feel like having somebody like you earlier would have been fantastic for me.
Yeah, no, I can see how. Yeah, I've always worked out from home, so it's just kind of ingrained into me, so it wasn't a huge change for me, but I do like the community aspect. I think obviously community is very important, and when a lot of those things were kind of taken away, it kind of changed our habits, and what we did to stay active and healthy. So that's where I'm trying to come in, and especially today, we're going to be talking about some tips to stay more active at your desk.
Awesome. So when thinking about how you stay active at your desk, like, what's the easiest thing you think for people to get started with right now?
So I think like sometimes you dive into your work, you're super concentrated, and the time starts to fly by, and you don't take a break. So I think obviously the most simple thing you can do is take a break. Step away from your computer, get your eyes off the screen, um, and even take it. I was just talking with Jeremy about drinking water. We get so into our work that we forget to even take a sip of water. And like 90% of Americans are walking around dehydrated. So that's something obvious we can do that can benefit our health is staying hydrated. Another thing maybe we can get into in a little bit fitness snacks. Just being more active as working throughout the day, taking walks, going outside. I think that's really an underrated thing you can do. Walking is probably one of the most underrated things you can do for your health and fitness. And then maybe I was thinking we could talk a little bit about like how often to take breaks, what you should do and what you can do in those breaks, and how to kind of build upon your activity to get even more benefits and stay active, be productive, be happier while you're at your desk job.
I love it. Why don't we start with breaks? That works
Sure.
for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Talking about how often, how, and I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is how to remind yourself to actually take them.
yeah, definitely. I mean, the best way that I remind myself to take breaks is through alarms. Alarms just to, because it'll snap me out of what I'm doing. But I do like to follow kind of a certain techniques and methods and rhythms when taking breaks. So like two that I've heard of that come to mind that I kind of use are the Pomodoro technique, and that's it's like a 30-minute time block. The theory is you work hard for 25 minutes of focused work, and then you take a break for 5 minutes. And I think that's a good way to step away. Another way is using ultradian rhythms. This is another theory that like your brain is able to function at higher capacity in like 90 minute blocks. So after working hard, if that works better for you, it all comes down to what works for you and what's sustainable. But with ultradian rhythms, you work hard for 90 minutes and you take a 20-minute break, so you kind of get a longer break in there. But I think stepping away from your computer, getting your eyes off the screen, even that's something we'll talk about in a future episode. I believe is eye health, and that's you want to get away from your computer because it's not something natural like the natural world we're looking at. We're looking at a digitized screen, but that's kind of besides the point today. But the most important thing I think is just listening to how you feel, and kind of incorporating that into your day. So if, after 25 minutes, you kind of are starting to feel like bogged down, a little foggy or whatever, it's probably good to step away from your computer. And whether that be going on a walk or doing some kind of micro workout, or I like to call them fitness snacks. I think those are really cool and can improve your health and fitness.
I love it. So I am perhaps a little too much of a fan of snacks. So I'd love to hear more about your fitness snacks.
Yeah, so fitness snacks, they're the only snack that's negative calories actually. um, but you don't get to eat anything. So the whole idea with fitness snacks is that you step away from your computer or whatever you're doing and you get active for anywhere from 90 seconds to 2 minutes, whatever, and you do somewhat of an intensive activity. So whether it be like push-ups or I've talked a lot about different types of activities you can do, like high intensity things like mountain climbers or lunges, things like that, or even just stretching. I find beneficial, but there's a lot of emerging research coming out that shows that these fitness snacks, when done a few times throughout the day. So, for example, you step away from your desk, you do a fitness snack, it takes like 2 minutes. You come back to your desk, you do your work for like another hour. you step away again, or 90 minutes or whatever it is, you step away again and you do that same activity or a different activity for 2 more minutes. And doing this just 3 times a day can reduce your risk of cardiovascular events, mortality. It raises your metabolic rate, and all kinds of things. I like to do it because I step away, I do a micro workout, I come back and I feel really refreshed. My mind is more clear. I can focus better. Some people, they don't want to step away because they think they're wasting time, but really, I think when you step away and you do that work and you come back, you're more productive. So really, you're not taking any time away from what you're doing. You come back, you feel refreshed, and you can get back into it a lot easier. So along with all those other benefits. So I really like to do fitness snacks, and I like to talk about them because I feel like for me, and possibly for other people who work remotely, it might be something feasible that they can work into their day. It's just, for me, I like to set timers just to remind myself to do these things.
Absolutely. It reminds me of a former colleague that I worked with, goes by Chill Codes. And she did a lot of her coding on stream. So she, would do her open source work, or even sometimes just work on
Mhm.
on stream. Did a lot of like coding related games. But one thing that she focused on, one thing that her viewers could redeem on her channel, was a stretch break, and she would kind of lead the chat in these specifically stretches that are meant to be done at a desk. And it was just like such a nice break, like you said, to kind of reset, feel yourself in your body for a moment, and then go back
Yeah.
refreshed.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, flexibility is important. Mobility is important. A lot of times when we're sitting, our hip flexors tighten up, our hamstrings tighten up, and our muscles get out of balance. So I think, yeah, pairing mobility work, stretching, just whatever makes your body and mind feel better. I think those are good things to implement. And yeah, for some people, flexibility is something they need to work on to just feel better. And if it relaxes you and gets you in a better mindset, like, I think that's awesome.
I had a trainer friend once tell me that the best program for you is the one that you will actually do consistently.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I think, yeah, fitness snacks might not work for everyone. I mean, I still do like my traditional 45-minute weightlifting routine, but with these fitness snacks, you can just you all you need is your own body weights, or depending on what you want to do, and you just need, literally a few minutes a day. So I think it could be more sustainable for people, because if you a lot of people, they go to the gym, they're like, I'm going to work out 6 days a week. They're just getting started, like 2-hour sessions, and they do that for a week and they're like, I'm never doing this again because it's just, I can't do this. So I think it's, small steps, small sustainable steps. That's the way to go.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I do want to recognize that we have a bunch of folks in the chat, particularly on LinkedIn. A lot of love for Michael. I do also want to say to anybody who is listening in, if you have questions, or um, you're struggling with something related to our topic for today, feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll try to work it into the conversation.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. Yeah, I appreciate everyone being here. I always feel really supported by this, and it's amazing to have this great community here on. Well, my platform is LinkedIn, but um, it's really cool, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about some things that you can do with just your body weight, which is awesome. That is a really approachable way to at start, or even lots of people, that's all they do is body weight work, um, body weight training. So, what are some things? Let's say that's not for me. Let's say I want to work uh, something into my routine while I'm still working. Do you have any tips for that?
So do you mean like, so something that's not a fit? Sorry, my my like all my screens went off and I had to like
Oh no,
relog back in.
no,
Um,
that's okay. Technical difficulties. So,
yeah, right.
question was basically, what are we talked about some body weight things we can do.
Mhm. Yeah.
What are some other ways that I can build activity into my desk job?
Okay. One that comes to mind is NEAT, non exercise activity thermogenesis. I just this kind of popped into my head when you brought that up. But what do I have here? Oh, I don't know. Like so those kinds of activities are just things you do that are not technically exercise, but you're burning calories. You're moving your body. Like some people like tap their leg or whatever, tap their foot on the ground. I have this like little gripper thing that I like to do during the day. I don't know. It's like it's a good stress reliever, and I don't know. It's just something that I like to do. What else? I mean, just getting up and going for a walk. I also have resistance bands. I think resistance bands are great. I mean, those can be implemented into like a fitness snack type thing as well. Um, but stretching. It's I mean, sometime for some people, if you do have, like, dumbbells and things like that, you can do little fitness snacks like that as well. Um, what else? I'm not sure. Oh, okay. I totally skipped my mind for some reason. So the equipment, you have in your office that can, give you an advantage for being active, I'd like to kinda talk about that. So a lot of people have like the under the desk treadmill or something, and I
Mhm.
think that's a really cool thing that I've seen recently people doing. The thing I really like, I have this mini stepper. So I have it under my desk. Can I show everyone? I'm going to show
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. Take your
So
time.
so this is my mini stepper. Can you see it?
Oh
There it
yeah,
is. So it's less expensive, obviously, than a under the desk treadmill. And so what I do, I'm just gonna demo this. I'm gonna demo this.
yeah.
Try to see if
Let's
we
do
can
it.
see. Okay, so I have my mini stepper. I think it's like $60 or $70. So I mean, it's still it's an investment. So I do this, and I can keep my upper body pretty steady there. So so I have this sit stand riser. I can't really show you that. I have the sit stand riser that I put to the up position, and then I go on my mini stepper, and so I'm doing that while I'm working. Yeah, and a lot of people have the standing desks, the sit stand desks. I have the sit stand riser. It's not quite as expensive. I put my monitors on there and my keyboard. So and that's kind of a warm up for me too. If I'm going to be doing my fitness snacks, sometimes if I'm not already doing this mini stepper, I'll get on it like 5 or 10 minutes before my fitness snack, so I'm kind of more warmed up, I guess. And I think that's one thing to note. Like, obviously, you might want to warm up before you do these fitness snacks, and like for
Yeah, especially
example.
if we're talking about like high intensity.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah, because you don't the last thing you wanna do is get injured, so and obviously, talk with your doctor before you implement any of these things into your day just because you wanna make sure you're healthy and able to do these things. Um, so I think for me, I really like the mini stepper and the sit stand desk. I think that just the difference between sitting and standing is pretty huge. Gosh, I had a statistic. People I mean, statistics, take it take them with a grain of salt. But um, compared to people who sit 4 hours a day, people who sit 8 hours a day have I don't want to mess up the statistics. Something like 40% less likely to die from like all causes or something. It's a significant difference. So I mean, the less time you can spend sitting, the better. So if you don't have a mini stepper and you just want to invest in a sit stand riser, like that's probably something that I think it's I think both of those things are definitely worth investing in, just because of what they can do for your health, your posture, how you feel. Like so many people. Tell me if I'm speaking too much here. So many people.
No, this
It,
is your show.
it's hard to remember to have good posture while you're sitting in your chair.
I keep like
And it,
adjusting myself even
yeah.
as we're talking.
Yeah, right, exactly. I always have to be adjusting myself, but sometimes we adopt this like head forward posture, and for every, degree our head comes forward, there's more and more weight that's our spine needs to basically, from our head, um our head, like, kind of like weighs more almost, and our spine has to support that. And then there's all these symptoms you can get from this head forward posture, headaches, trouble sleeping, all of this stuff. And I think being active and getting movement into your day can help. And obviously, having good posture helps as well. I think for me, I tend to have better posture when I am on the mini stepper, just
Mm,
because I have to balance. So when I stand up straighter, it's easier to balance.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of, and it brings to mind actually something that I recall from the Nerd Fitness blog. I don't know if you've come across this in uh, your fitness journey, but it's something that I started reading when I was in college. And it was basically this concept of making it easier to make better decisions for yourself. And so if that means if stepping or standing in a certain way makes it easier for you to keep that healthier posture, like that's great. Do that. If it makes if putting your treadmill under your desk makes it easier for you to take that walk, then great. You
Yeah.
know, um, kind of not trying to adjust your environment so that it's easier for you to do the things that you need and want to do for yourself.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would, like, for a treadmill, just putting your your treadmill where your chair goes, then either you have to move it or walk on it. So, either way you're gonna get in some activity there.
Yeah, definitely. And the I will say some of them are really light and small and easy to move. Mine is not. It is massive,
Yeah,
um,
that's good.
and it is very much a workout to get it up or down. So most of the time, that's it's a double-edged sword. Like it's really hard to get it up off the floor, but then it's also like a process to get it back down.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, if you can set your environment up to be, more conducive to you being active, I think that's, a great way to implement more activity into your day.
Sure. Um, let's see. I mean, this feels very simple. Just touching grass. Uh, but I think in practice, it's difficult for a lot of people to make time for it. I guess what is your advice to folks who struggle with making time to actually get up and moving outside?
Well, I mean, kind of like I said before, you're really not taking any time away from what you're doing. You're adding time to your day, if anything, because you're getting the blood flowing to your body, to your brain. You're becoming more productive. If you get up if I have something difficult I'm trying to solve with code or whatever on the computer, if I get up, and just stop thinking about it. And if I go outside and go on a walk, a lot of the time, most of the time, I can come back to the desk and solve the problem. And I don't know if that has to do with like Well, I know walking, it activates creativity, um, and it's good for you in so many ways, and especially, getting outside. I think a lot of us, myself included, I spend too much time indoors. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why a lot of people have that really low vitamin D levels. You get the vitamin D from the sun, and even if you're in front of a window like I am, it still blocks a lot of those rays, even the beneficial ones. I mean, obviously want to wear sunscreen and not be in the sun like 24/7, and all that kind of stuff. But I think we've kind of moved a little bit too extreme the other way. We're not getting outside enough, um, and getting outside is another underrated way, an underrated thing we could do for our health. In terms of time, I think a 10-minute walk is really sufficient. Like after meals or just whenever you can do it. And like we've talked about, if it's not sustainable, you're not going to do it. So, some people like to take like 45-minute walks in the morning or something before they start working. Some people like to spread them throughout the day. I think a good goal, scientifically speaking, I think a good goal to shoot for is 8,000, 10,000 steps a day. A lot of people talk about the 10,000 steps a day, and sometimes that's not doable for everyone. Sometimes it takes people, longer than other
Mhm.
people. But I think obviously getting an under the desk treadmill, getting a mini stepper, I mean, that counts as steps too, I think. You can get to that number if you're shooting for a number. But otherwise, just, something is more than nothing. Like if you're not getting any steps in, like, starting with 4 or 5,000, whatever. As long as you're, you know, making a change if you want, and stacking good habits on each other that are sustainable.
Yeah. I know for me, sometimes I will just take the work outside
Yeah.
and do it there. I have a hammock in my backyard, and sometimes I will literally just pick up my laptop and go. And at that point, I'm lying down while I'm working, but like at least I'm getting some of those rays.
Yeah.
But I'll also like walk down the street to a cafe that is by my house, and it's a good 15-minute walk at like a pretty steady pace.
Yeah.
I get to enjoy a change of scenery because like I need that sometimes. And and not only that, but that for me gets me some of that community that I've been missing too.
Yeah. Right.
Um, you kind of are literally with my neighborhood in this central place, and it's lovely.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be a little isolating when you're working from home by yourself. I know some people, what are those called? The community offices or the shared workspaces? I don't know. I've never
Co-working
tried that,
space.
but those are okay. Co-working. That's right. Those seem pretty interesting. I mean, if yeah, especially, I mean, even people who are relatively introverted, I think, could it's good to be around community, unless you're absolutely opposed to it. You can always go on a walk by yourself. You can still always do that. But I think, yeah, for me, like community is important. And it takes me out of my comfort zone as well. And I think that's good for
Mhm.
my growth as a person, as whatever, a founder, as a speaker. And I think community is definitely important.
This is maybe a little out of scope. You let me know. But I'm thinking about ways that people can have combine forces with other folks, maybe in their organizations. I'm recalling uh, previous jobs, and maybe this exists at Pluralsight too, and I'm just not aware. Um, but I'm recalling previous jobs where either we got together to do classes, some kind of class together, and that could be in person or virtual. Um, Others where we would do like friendly competitions, either steps or some other like measurable thing, just to sort of motivate each other. I don't know if you have any experience running or participating in things like that. Um, I know I found it helpful.
Yeah, no, I can see how that would be really helpful. I've heard of, I've heard of companies or communities doing like, like 10,000 steps for 30 days or challenge or
Mhm.
whatever. Um and I think those are really great ways to stay active and get your community involved. I think it would be cool if, I mean, it seems like companies kind of focus on wellness, but it would be cool if they focused a little more on it. Because I mean, my vision when I post these, fitness snacks is like, people even people, like, in their offices, like, like, the whole company or the whole team, like, takes a break and does some push-ups or whatever. I mean, I know some people think that's ridiculous, but I think it would I don't know, I think it would be fun, if you're in the right mindset, it would be fun and, the whole I'm sure people would see benefits from it, and teams would even see benefits from it. Just if you're, more active as a group, I'm sure it would help the company.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking now. So, side note, I also own a tabletop game store.
Oh,
So
cool.
you would think a lot more sitting. Um, and in some cases, that's true. But building in movement into that has also been really helpful. Um, Whereas at the beginning, when we first opened, I would sit a lot behind the counter. It was really helpful to start building in some of these same exercises that we're talking about, some of these same practices, and not only do I feel better, but I get so much more done. I am more productive
Yeah,
when I sort of build those things in, because one, a lot of the times I'm literally in that case lifting and carrying and all
yeah,
of that in those breaks. But it's also I'm more organized. I use that time when I'm walking around to fix little things in the store, and I think you could carry that over to your house. Um, if you if you're having trouble sort of getting past um, that feeling of I'm wasting time. You could use it to do something,
yeah.
some small thing in your house, and make it nicer for when you're finally finished working for the day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's great. I yeah, I want I think one of the main takeaways, when you do get more, the mind and body are connected. I guess that's kind of a big takeaway, and something that I've experienced too. When I'm more active, I'm happier. When I'm more active, I want to eat better foods. Because my body craves better, healthier foods because my body knows that it'll help me recover better. I'm definitely happier when I'm more active, and I think, mental health is a big deal, especially working remotely, and a lack of community might be a reason, or being more sedentary might be a reason, but the body and the mind are connected. So when you're more active, you're helping your body and you're helping your mind. And so I think it's just for so many different reasons, I think it's worth an investment into your health. So and start small. Like you said, just cleaning up around the house, like, that's I mean, that's a huge thing. I think, just cleaning, you feel like you've accomplished something afterwards. You feel more calm in your space, especially in your workspace, um, and you've done some physical activity. So just, yeah, even just the smallest things can add up over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I know, I believe we have a whole episode planned where you're going to talk about back pain. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
All
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
So we had someone earlier whom I missed mention that, but just sort of generally, and this is again this is not going to be, not everything is going to work for everybody.
Yep.
You want to talk to your doctor, especially if you already have pain,
Yeah.
before
Mhm.
incorporating any of this into your life. But um, I know for me personally, uh, stretching in particular is super important. Um, I I am a large person, and if I sit too long, I start tightening up, and I feel so much better when I am intentional about moving. Uh, and It's particularly the mobility work that we were talking about earlier. Uh,
Mhm.
I have a friend who is just very, very into mobility specifically. Um, and it's not something that I thought about, honestly, before meeting this person. I'm just like, in my head, you're flexible or you're not, sort of naturally, which, you know. And uh, I was blown away how much it helped me just in my life, but also with my lifting when I started actually paying attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, like you said, you were into powerlifting, and that was definitely one of the first things I was into when I was lifting weights was powerlifting. And um, if especially like for example, like the squat, if you don't have good mobility, uh, if your hamstrings are too tight, your lower back will, start to round at the bottom of your squat, and that can lead to some pretty bad injuries. And so, yeah, mobility and flexibility are important in lifting and just in life in general. My I So when we do talk about back pain, my story, I herniated 2 discs in my back many years ago, and it was a long journey of recovery. And today, I don't have, luckily, knock on wood, I don't have any back pain at all. I can do, whatever lifts I want, and my back just doesn't really hurt anymore. But I still maintain it. One of the things that didn't feel so great was sitting for long periods of time, and stretching was kind of an antidote to that, because when you're sitting, your hip flexors get tight, your hamstrings get tight. And I noticed that the tighter my hamstrings and hip flexors were, the more my back would have to compensate. And it would
Mhm.
almost like pull on my lower back. So as I got more flexible, I kind of alleviated some of my back pain, and, with various other techniques. But I think, flexibility is a little more important than a lot of people think it is. It's
Yeah.
like, it's when I first started, I didn't lifting weights, I didn't stretch at all, and then I got, like, all
Just
kinds of
go for it.
injuries. Yeah, right. Because I was like, "Well, my muscle is tighter, so it'll be, like, stronger." I don't know, just, like, not very good logic there, but, that's, flexibility is an important thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, I think people forget that it's all connected. Um, Talking, even using that same squat example, um, having enough flexibility in your ankles
Oh, yeah.
to
Mhm.
keep from pitching forward. Like that's that's huge. And I can feel it when I don't have it, and it throws me off. I can't get as low and maintain my form.
Mhm.
We're This is a powerlifting conversation now. Uh,
Yeah.
but similarly, I think about, my daily life, like hauling kitty litter into the house, or um, shoveling snow, things like that. it's all connected, it's all functional, or it should be.
Yeah, right, definitely. Well, and I feel like we talk about squatting in a powerlifting sense, but just squatting in general. Um, I know in the United States, like not very. You take the random person at a desk job, and they can't get into a squat without falling over or feeling horrible or something. In a I don't know which. There are a lot of countries that that's a very comfortable position for people to get into. They just sit in a squat, and it's kind of relaxing. And I feel like that's something a lot of people could benefit from is just trying to get into a squat. Is it, it increases your, like you said, like your ankle mobility. Um, it even stretches out your hamstrings. It helps with strength. Like just going down into a squat and hanging out there for a little bit, it can improve your health and fitness. And I think it's kind of fun to do too. When I was first got into weightlifting, I couldn't get into the bottom of a squat without falling over, and I just practiced, and over time I could do it, and I can do it now, and it's just nice. And then just from picking up your groceries off the ground, just like picking up your kids, like simple things like that, are a lot easier the more mobility you have.
For sure. For sure. Let's see. So I want to let folks know again, if you do have questions or have something to contribute. I know folks have been sharing their own tips in the chat. I really appreciate y'all participating with us. But if you do have questions, comments, whatever you have, please feel free to drop that in the chat. Especially our friends on LinkedIn have been going at it. Kimberly, thank you very much for your tips, and I'm I'm glad. So Kimberly says you've motivated me to use my stepper that's just sitting by my desk. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Michael, it looks like you do push-ups every 2 hours after. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I like, for me when I do my micro workouts, I like to like get them all in the morning just so I'm kind of done with them by the afternoon time. So I usually do like on the hour, I'll get up for 2 minutes and do either mobility routine, high intensity routine. I like resistance bands. I think they're super great and something worth investing in, especially when you travel.
Yeah,
Traveling is a whole other issue. Staying active while traveling, that's tough. Eating healthy while traveling, that's another thing too. All kinds kinds of things.
yeah. Certainly, being in developer relations was not the case for the last few years, but it's certainly starting to pick back up. The expectation of speaking and traveling. And so, for folks who do travel for work, maybe that's a whole other
Yeah.
episode. But it's definitely tough to kind of keep up the momentum, keep up the routine, and stay consistent when your circumstances are not stable or consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, right, definitely. I mean, having a routine at home it's easy to get in the routine, but when you're traveling, sometimes everything is thrown off, and depending on where you're staying, like, it's it's difficult. And that's another place where I think body weight movements, micro workouts, traveling with resistance bands can be really beneficial for you to be able to continue. I mean, even if it's not the same, just something is better than nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Things focusing on things that are small and light, or just body weight, like you said. Um, that's actually how I started running, which was I do not do anymore. I just is not my thing. But for a year, um, that was my go-to because I had shoes, and that was all I really needed.
Mhm.
Um, you know, shoes and water.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um and it's something that uh at the time I wasn't traveling, but like that's something that you can do in most places.
Yeah.
Um and
Mhm.
so at least even if it's not your whole routine, even if it's just a portion, incorporating something like that, either running or body weight workouts or resistance training, specifically with bands,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing that's portable
Yeah.
can be
Mhm.
really great.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and just yeah, accessibility, yeah, anyone can, depending on the weather, you can usually go for a run or just even a walk if you don't, if you don't wanna run. I'm kind of a fan of, walking or sprinting. I'm not like a huge jogger by any means.
No in between.
Yeah, yeah, right, it's yeah, so that's kinda what I like to do, but yeah, all you need, and most hotels have a treadmill. That I don't know. It kind of, I don't really like treadmills. It's kind of boring. I'd rather get outside, even if it is kind of the weather's not optimal. Um, and for like the sunlight, vitamin D, like you still can get a little of that through the clouds as well. It's not, you know, it's good to be outside. I always feel better when I go outside. It looks like there's a few questions coming in.
Yes.
Um,
We have one from our very own Josh Burkhead. What tips do you have for eating better while working from home? What are your go-tos for light snacks and lunches? Having a kitchen available 24/7 can be deadly.
Yeah, definitely. Is that something we will be talking about on I think it is.
I
Um,
believe we do have a whole session on that, but if you want to give
yeah,
a quick preview, we can totally do that.
for sure. So there are a lot of foods. I think, is it more it might be more focused on like brain health and things like that. But I think for
Mhm.
light snacks and lunches. Okay, so well here's a little bit of information. I think a lot of people know that there are things they shouldn't eat, like candy and ultra processed foods. And there's a lot of research coming out that shows that these ultra processed foods, um, so for example, an ultra processed food is like a candy bar, soda, things that are like heavily processed and just full of junk. We know we're not supposed to have those, and they cause cognitive decline, significant cognitive decline. And so I think avoiding those foods are probably good. I don't like to give out like like dietary, dietary models, because some people, they have different opinions on um, what diet to follow, like vegan, keto, carnivore, things like that. But for me, just from my experience, in my opinion, um, like for some examples for snacks, I do, fruits, vegetables, bananas, apples, even. If you're looking for something lower in sugar, I like almonds. I think some nuts are good, really good. Almonds are good for brain health. Um, but yeah, you get carrots, something you can munch on that don't have a ton of calories in them, if that's what you're going for. Um, what is it? I read something. I was talking about how fitness snacks are negative in calories. Just it's kind of a joke. Celery, interesting. I'm just kind of going with my train of thought here. Celery, it has calories in it, but it takes more effort from you to digest them. So if you eat a stick of celery, you've reduced your caloric intake basically. So I think that's kind of interesting. For lunch, I do like salads. I like to throw a lot of nutrient dense foods in my salads. Like things like avocado, think different like superfoods. You might say like blueberries, things like that. I have all kinds of opinions about food. Um, yeah, I do. I like almonds. Sometimes Brazil nuts, but not too many of those. They're a good source of selenium. See, I feel like I'm going into the weeds now a little bit, but there's so much to unpack with nutrition. Um, Yeah, I don't like oh, okay, yeah, juicing with celery, that's
That's nice.
interesting. That's a good idea. I've heard someone doing that with cabbage as well. Um,
Hmm.
had mentioned juicing with cabbage. You know, so many micronutrients in different foods. Um, so, you know, yeah, that'll be a whole there'll be a whole section dedicated to, you know, optimizing brain health, your body's health, what different kinds of superfoods can do for your health, and just getting in good snacks. I'm a huge fan of mushroom jerky as well. I kind of just discovered that through one of my
Mushroom.
friends. Yeah, I think mushrooms are an interesting food as well that
Are
have a
these
ton of
just
benefits.
dried mushrooms? What?
Yeah,
I'm
dried
curious.
mushrooms. I don't know the process. One of my friends gave me like this locally sourced mushroom jerky. I'm not exactly sure how you make it. You know, it didn't have a lot of jerky. Like if you buy beef jerky, there's a lot of like nitrates and things like that. Um, and that have been shown not to be so great for you.
Mhm.
But if you get just the jerky, you know, I think it's good for you. You know, and mushrooms have a good amount of protein in them as well, and all kinds of benefits. I really love mushrooms. We could do an episode on mushrooms. I'm kidding mostly. Yeah. So the just I like almonds, even cheese. If you tolerate cheese, I think Parmigiano cheese from Italy is super has a lot of benefits in that as well. You know, some I don't know. We could do a whole episode too on like what are some good sources of food and what aren't. But yeah, I think in general people know. You know, a slice of cake probably isn't the best snack you can have. Um, but yeah, and not overeating. And I think almonds are good for that because they kind of, for me at least, they kind of fill me up and offer me some beneficial nutrition that I can use for cognitive health, energy, longer energy, and stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I know we're coming up on the end of the hour. I want to thank everybody once again for joining us. If you do have questions, now's the time. Get them in. But Michael, is there anything that you would like to leave folks with for this, our first episode of Wellness Tech Tips?
Yeah, if anybody, what about sleep? Oh man, that's a okay. Well, that I think we are talking about stress management and I think
Mhm.
sleep is one of the most important things. You know, you have like, you know, sleep, nutrition, exercise. Sleep is up there. You know, it's up there with them all. And I think a lot of people, especially in tech, a lot of people, especially trying to get into tech, or people in college, or people studying, um, they tend to think like I need to stay up late so I can study so I can do
Yeah,
better on an
push
exam.
through. Yeah.
But you know, in my case, and I think in other people's cases as well, sleep. You know, sleep is there for a reason. We consolidate our short-term memories and put it into long-term memories. It helps our body recover, our brains recover. If you don't get enough sleep, you're not going to feel as well. You'll be mentally unwell. Your whole mindset changes when you don't get enough sleep. So I think, oh gosh, there's too much to talk about. I've talked about these things called caffeine or coffee naps as well. Maybe I could get into that on. I'll have to write that down. I don't know what that'll go under, but those are kind of an interesting thing. But like, you still need your long sleep at night. And the amount of sleep that people need varies, but in general, um, the number I usually hear is you want to get more than 7 hours of sleep. You know, and it varies. We're all, you know, individually, we all vary in how much sleep we need, but it's important to get enough sleep so you're functioning optimally, and physically, mentally, all that kind of stuff. There's sleep is, you know, it's an important thing.
Definitely. I struggle. That's one thing that I struggle with a lot actually is getting enough sleep. I will I'll get bogged down in something, and suddenly, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's a mess. Uh, but the days when I actually get enough sleep and wake up and I feel rested, like that feeling is so good.
Yeah, oh, definitely, and it just, it sets up your day. If you wake up cranky and not well rested, it's gonna affect the rest of your day. You're not gonna perform as well, you're not gonna feel as well. Um, yeah, I think it's great to have a routine, before you go to bed, try to get to sleep at the same time every night. I think the earlier you can go to sleep, the better. Because I think there's a lot of research out there that shows if you wake up earlier, and get some sunlight in the morning, that kind of determines how well you're going to be sleeping at night. Um, that's also another subject that it would be really fun to get into, but I think we're running out of time.
Well, I want to thank you, Michael, for doing this. The DevRel team certainly is really excited to uh, help make this happen, but we certainly are not fitness experts, though some of us are at least enthusiasts.
Yeah,
So, really excited to have you. Really looking forward to the rest of the series. For folks who are interested, we will be doing this on a weekly basis on Fridays at noon Eastern. Um, and up through June 16th, I believe. So we have four more sessions planned.
yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah,
But right now,
I'm hoping people like it. I think our next one is on, back health, and so
yep.
I have a lot to say about that, and I think especially for people, even, people who watch, like, Pluralsight and A Cloud Guru, I think, all all of all of the things that we're talking about here can, accelerate your learning, improve your performance at your job, and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not interested in it for, like, I don't know why you wouldn't be interested in it for feeling better, and reaching more of your fitness goals, but just to do a better job, retain more information. Like I said, the body and the mind are connected, so I think, you know and, yeah, and for anyone out there, if you have any questions or any input also, I think, as a community, it's fun to come up with things together because, yeah, we're in tech. How can we all help each other out to perform our best and feel our best?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And look forward to more conversations.
Me too. It's gonna be fun. This was really fun. Thank you.